the question, they have discussed the variation of quantity A with respect to B, and they have plotted that in the form of a graph, which is obtained as a straight line, and they are asking us to describe the motion of the particle. The first option says that, so generally you may have observed in the kinematics, when we plot a displacement time graph or velocity time graph or acceleration time graph, then during that the graphs, we generally plot the time on the x-axis. So here the option A says that the B represent time is true. Okay, so when we come to option B says that if the quantity A represents velocity, let us draw the graph. If the quantity A represents velocity, then graph is in this manner. So here we can observe that as the time increases or as the time proceeds, the velocity is not constant. Okay, the velocity of the particle here, it is not constant. The velocity is changing continuously. Then this this motion of the particle is not considered as uniform motion, because in uniform motion, the particle is said to be in uniform motion if the particle moves with constant velocity. Here the particle is not moving with a constant velocity, so this motion is not uniform. Okay, so option B is wrong. Okay, coming to option C. Option C says that if the quantity A represents displacement and quantity B is time, then they are saying that the motion is uniform. So in order to understand this, first you should know that the slope of the xt graph, okay, the slope of the xt graph, the always represents velocity, because the slope of xt graph is generally dx by dt. Then this dx by dt, you are familiar that dx by dt is always equals to velocity. Then we can say that this slope of the xt graph is always a velocity. Here we can see that the graph obtained, xt graph obtained, is a straight line, and generally and mostly you have here that the straight line possesses a constant slope. Then since the slope is constant here in this case, and we know that the slope here is velocity, indirectly the velocity is constant here. In this case, as the velocity is constant, then we can say that the motion of the particle is uniform. So option C is true. Okay, so option C is true. Now moving to option D. Option D says that if the quantity A represents velocity, the quantity A represents velocity and this is time, then the graph is a straight line, and they are, so first let us try to understand. So since it is a VT graph, in the VT graph, the slope of VT graph represents acceleration, because we know that the slope of VT graph is indicated by dv by dt, that represents acceleration. So as this graph obtained here is a straight line, and the straight line has a constant slope. So here the slope is constant and this slope represents acceleration. Then we say that the acceleration is constant. If the acceleration is constant, if the particle is moving with a constant acceleration, then that motion is called uniformly accelerated. Uniformly accelerated means the particle is moving with uniform acceleration. That is nothing but the particle is moving with constant acceleration. So option D is true here.